everyone. Welcome to this new episode of our Student Spotlight series, where we are able to showcase some of the work our past students have done. I'm Charlotte, one of the outreach coordinators here at CCIR, and it's our pleasure today to have Minal with us, who did our one-on-one mentorship. So firstly, can you just give us an introduction? So tell us where you're from, what year you are in school, and then what made you seek out CCIR.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Minal Matai. I'm currently a high schooler, starting 10th grade this year. And I sought out research because I've always been interested in scientific research and I've always wanted to pursue it as a job. And being able to get this type of experience would help me a lot to consider if I did truly want to continue this in university or if I wanted to try new areas.
Nice. So can you give us a brief overview of what kind of your one-on-one program looked like, the topic that you delved into, and what made you decide on that topic?
Yeah, of course. So, when I first considered CCIR, I already knew the type of topic that I wanted to do, which was something in astronomy or physics. So, when I started the one-on-one mentorship, I told my mentor, "Oh, I'm really interested in this type of topic and I need more ideas for what type of research I can do in it." And he brainstormed with me different research papers that we looked at by famous scientists and physicists who had already written research papers. And based off of that, we sort of decided on the type of topic that would fit my skill levels best and also give me the experience I looked for.
Nice. And did you have experience with astronomy or physics before starting CCIR?
Before CCIR, I've always just been interested in it. I haven't actually done any research papers before that. This was the first like scientific writing I've ever done before, I think, besides like science fairs and other school assignments. But before this, I have always just seen astronomy and physics as sort of a hobby and an area of interest, but not something that I would do in research. So I was really excited to start this opportunity.
Nice. So now we're going to shift and discuss your specific research project. So can you give us a overview of what it was about and again how you decided on that topic in particular?
Yeah, so my topic explored a concept called dark matter, which hasn't really been um, fully like discovered by researchers yet. It's very theoretical and it's sort of held on a ground that isn't fully foundational yet. So in my research, I looked to prove the existence of dark matter using data of planets and stars that we had access to, and also use new types of technology today to incorporate that into my research to make it more modern and make it more unique than previous research papers. And I think what really got me into dark matter was just how like mysterious it was, sort of, and also how the math sort of worked. I hadn't fully like went into the math of physics and astronomy yet, so getting this opportunity to have the basic math skills with me for dark matter was very important in my decision to do it. And also the new types of uh, opportunities I can use in it, like the technologies, the programming. I used a lot of programming in my research, which really appealed to me. And also just the types of sciences that it used and the types of physics.
Nice. That's great that you were able to research something that is that is still developing so much in the real world. So can you walk us through your specific research methods? So I know that you spoke about kind of the math or programming side of things. Can you talk us through what you did with that? Did you have experience with that before, and how was that kind of learning those skills?
Yeah, so I had a foundation in programming and math. The math I looked to use was very basic, sort of algebra based, so I wouldn't have to learn too much of new information to confuse myself when writing this paper. And the programming, I had also done previous programming classes, specifically in Python, which I used for this research paper. So I sort of conducted this research paper on skills that I already had experience in. And the way I used those skills was when I was first collecting the data that I needed for my project, I would program these math formulas to use the data and give me the output that I needed to conduct my research. And I think that was very important to me because without my mentor, when I first thought about this research paper, I expected me to just do the math by hand, but actually being able to get the opportunity to use the programming and the Python was so important, and so much easier than if I had actually done it by hand.
Yeah, definitely a lot easier than doing it by hand. And a great skill to learn, to have someone to teach you the base for, and then you can always continue to improve on it even after you're done with your program here. So can you walk us through your findings? Was there anything interesting that you found maybe that you weren't expecting to find, or did it kind of align with what you were expecting?
Yeah, so there were a few findings that I did expect and some that were actually really interesting. So the findings that I did expect were some of the data and the graphs, the specific trends that they followed are what I had predicted beforehand in sort of my hypothesis part of the paper. And some other parts that I didn't really realize was the programming I used in this project was machine learning. And machine learning is a new sort of technology that's arising today that is programmed to take data and create formulae out of those data. And what I found were these formulae that I use on these different sets of data actually had a very common ground. So they had the same variables, they had the same type of trends, and that shows that there is actually a pattern or a common equation that can represent what I was looking for, which I didn't expect before. So that was a very surprising finding. Um, and also just the types of programming that I used was very trial and error, and the fact that it worked in the end was very important to me. I think I didn't expect that to happen, so that was also very surprising. Um, but besides that, I think everything else was mostly predicted through the math. Um, but yeah.
Nice. And then the final question about your specific research paper, is there any kind of big takeaways that you had or questions that you wanted to look further into in the future, or any kind of conclusions that you came to at the end of this that you want to share?
Yeah, of course. So the study that I did was particularly on spiral galaxies, and something that I would go further into is how dark matter interacts in different types of galaxies besides spiral galaxies. And that would be very interesting because that would tell us how different compositions of galaxies sort of affect the structure of dark matter. But some important findings I found were that dark matter does have some sort of presence, or it does exist on these theoretical grounds that I was testing. And also, the way that you represent them through formulae can actually be very similar through the types of, depending on the machine learning that you use to conduct it. It will give you common variables and common equations that you can then use to represent these types of scenarios, which was very interesting.
Nice. Seems like a really great paper. And again, really interesting that you're able to conduct this research in a field that's still developing so much. So now we're lastly going to shift to discussing just your general experience with CCIR with the one-on-one mentorship. So firstly, can you tell us what your experience was like in the program, doing a high-level research project like this as a high school student?
Yeah, CCIR was so supportive from the very start. when I first got my mentor, CCIR helped so much with the scheduling and just the flexibility of it, I feel like, especially with the time differences. I'm Eastern time, and my mentor was a completely different time period, and that helped a lot with the coordination and everything. And also just the extra help that they give you. Like, for example, if you're struggling with a concept that your mentor is talking about, you can schedule office hours with your mentor, or you could even ask CCIR themselves the questions that you had. And that was just so helpful for me, especially since I didn't only have to rely on the sessions given to me with my mentor. I could seek extra help. And also beyond my research paper, when I finish my final draft, CCIR can help so much with editing it and finding opportunities for it. And that's just so helpful for me because I don't feel like alone. I feel like I have someone helping me through this process, especially since this is like so new to me. The concept I'm doing is just so difficult. It's not something that you do in school, so you can't really get help from your school either. And CCIR just being there for me all the time has helped me so much get through this research paper, and I'm so thankful for that.
That's really wonderful. And I think again, just to reiterate the extra support that you have outside of just your mentor, you have the writing center to help with anything related to writing the actual paper. You have the publication team, as you mentioned, to help you through the publication process. It really is kind of a team effort, and there's a lot of people to rely on, which is really great that you were able to experience that. And then my next question is about your kind of research project specifically. How was that compared to other projects or papers that you've done in high school? Obviously, the topic that you did is quite niche, and like you mentioned, you don't have access to that type of topic in school. So what was that like being able to do that?
Yeah, so I feel like in school it's much different because you have a rubric and you have a set deadline for when you need to submit your work. But for this research paper, it was more self-paced and it was more up to the type of research paper that you were doing. And there isn't a specific set of like guidelines for how to write it or anything. So that was definitely much different and way more flexible because I could creatively like have this approach in writing my research paper. And I feel like in school as well, um, you have teachers who are there sometimes, but not all the times. But in CCIR, I could just send an email and they would just come back to me so fast and tell me or support me in any way possible. And that was just so helpful. I feel like writing this research paper was just so much like easier compared to schoolwork where you don't necessarily have the type of support system that CCIR gives.
Nice. And I think one great thing you mentioned is that it is very student driven. So ultimately, in both of our programs, we want you to be researching and learning about what you're interested in rather than you fitting into the mold of the teacher's rubric or their curriculum. So what was it like kind of having that power of being able to choose what you want to research to kind of have the mentor follow your lead, but at the same time, kind of open your eyes to possible topics and research opportunities.
It definitely taught me much more about myself and my interests specifically because there wasn't a set again, there wasn't like a set rule book or like any guidelines that I had to follow. It was really up to me, and that gave me a really large sense of independence to make decisions for how I conduct the research and for how I ask questions to my mentor and what I want to discuss in my meetings. And that was so important because I feel like I was taking charge of the research paper, and that really gave me ownership for my work and what I did. And I'm just so thankful that I got that opportunity. And I feel like in school, it's so much more different. You can't get that again. And just being able to have this self lead and being able to be independent in what I did for this work was so important.
Great. And then just a few more questions for you. Firstly, do you think this course has given you any insights into your future? I know in the beginning you said that you did see CCIR a big part just to see if you liked research and you hadn't had this experience before. Do you like research? Do you think that you would want to do research in the future, either as a career or in university? What are your thoughts now that you've had the experience and the opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this project so much. It was definitely one of my favorite written works I've ever done because I don't normally like writing. I'm not a writer, but being able to write something that I am really passionate about really made me enjoy doing the research and especially finding my own data and making the processes to find the data and also present it was just so fun and so exciting. And I feel like before the mentorship, I wasn't entirely sure, like specifically what I wanted to do. I just knew that I really was interested in stuff about space, but I wasn't sure what I could do with that in a career. But being able to write a research paper like this has shown me how important it is to actually find your own results and create your own research. And it is definitely something I am considering for university and even beyond.
Nice. And then my last question for you, what would you say to someone who asked you what the value of doing a project or a program like this is, especially for a high school student?
Yeah, I think definitely go for it. I mean, it's just such a great chance to really uh, flourish in what you are passionate about. Before this, I barely got any opportunities to do anything I'm interested in about space or physics, but here I could actually put my interests into real skills and really channel it to find results that I was interested in. And that helped me so much grow as a student in school and just grow as a person overall, like learning these new skills about independence and learning how to use them in school as well. It just helps so much. And like, you're never too young to start it, I think. And definitely just go for it, especially if you're interested in something that you might not always get the opportunity to do. This is a great chance to do it.
I think that's great. So that brings us to the end of our spotlight interview. Thank you so much for chatting to me and congratulations again on your nomination to our series.
Thank you so much for having me.